When feeling sick, nothing beats some homemade chicken soup. There's something comforting about soup, but don't wait until you get sick to make it. I'll explain why later. But first, let's get our ingredients together. You can choose any vegetables you enjoy. I usually use tomato sauce to give it a little bit of color, but today I'm using some ripe tomatoes, which I need to use before they spoil. I'll also need to chop half an onion. I'm going to add a little bit of oil to the pan, add in our onion, and give it a stir. We want to make sure our onions are nice and softened. Next, we'll add our tomatoes. Give it a quick stir. As I'm cooking down the tomatoes, I'm using low heat. Remember to season each step of the way, because with each vegetable you add, you water down your soup. So always be sure to taste as you go. Let's boil 5 cups of chicken broth. You could also use water. Once it boils, add your chicken. I'm using some skinless chicken thighs, making sure I trimmed out the bit of the fat before I put them in here. If I'm using water and not chicken broth, then I usually leave the skin on. Gives it a little bit extra flavor. You can use any part of the chicken here. Chicken breast is very popular. No need to add salt at this step because the broth is already salted. Be sure to remove any white foamy impurities the chicken might release while you're boiling it. I'll add in my cooked down tomatoes and onions. Once it comes to a boil, let's add our carrots and our celery. I got COVID a few weeks ago and this soup really hit the spot. About 2 years ago, I started making soup, put it in plastic containers and put it in the freezer with the idea that if I got sick or family members got sick or close friends, I could easily defrost and heat up. It holds up pretty well in the freezer. Yes, the texture of the vegetables change up a bit, but that's a very small price to pay for some fresh homemade soup. And it's way better than the canned stuff or having to go to the grocery store sick and having to make it yourself. There's a strategy of when you add in the vegetables. Vegetables like zucchinis, you want to add them towards the end because you don't want to overcook those. Hard vegetables like celery, carrots, potatoes, corn, you're better off cooking those really early. And just remember to salt every time you add in a new vegetable. I almost forgot to add the red bell peppers. The last vegetable you should add is a cabbage. The cabbage will cook down in about 5 minutes. I probably should have used a bigger pot, but I should be fine. Let's cover up and let it come up to a boil. The soup is done. How long can it last in the freezer? I don't let it go past 6 months. I've been eating the soup as I go, and when the soup containers get low, I'll make up a fresh batch of soup and start replenishing the containers. This way the containers aren't left in the freezer for too long. Now, if you want to go that extra mile, you should consider canning the soup. Charlie over at Pit Smoke recently did a very good canning chicken soup video on his channel, so be sure to check that one out. I'll be leaving the link down in the description. Let's pour some in a bowl. I'll add the cilantro, but recently I started adding cilantro right in the bowl. I also like to add just a little bit of rice. I'll add in a bit of salsa for a little bit of spice. And that's it. Fresh homemade soup. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe.